All right, I guess we'll get started at 4:01. This is the November meeting of the Budget Committee, Middlesex. So does anybody have anything to add to it? This afternoon? Going once, going twice? Okay. All right, our first order of business is to approve the October minutes.
I read those. I'd make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
Was that a second by Nat?
Yep.
All right, all in favor of passing, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, action items, let's see. Dorinda and I chatted via email, and so if everything goes according to plan, I think we decided on maybe having a special budget meeting on the 6th of January at 4:00. And that would be before the first deliberation meeting on the fiscal year 27 budget. So we could sort of get a sense of what we were talking about in terms of our approach. So if that's okay with
So
everybody,
it's, what's the date?
January 6th.
The same 4 PM time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Elias. From-
Trickier than.
I was just mentioning that we'll have a special meeting of the budget committee on the 6th of January, which is a Tuesday, I think, at 4. And Dorinda will join us, so we'll have a preview of what the draft fiscal year 27 budget looks.
That's awesome.
And then we'll go into the first deliberation meeting with the select board at 5 that day. Okay.
January 6th, 4:00. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we're on to fiscal year 2027 budget thoughts. So I think when we have a select board meeting, select board member here, I think we're still talking about this new special article, 100,000 a year for flood mitigation to build a fund. So, so that'll be a special article, 1 for the creation of the fund and 2 to fund it. So we'll have 2 special articles for the March meeting, like we've done before for special funds. So that's $100,000. So that represents about a 5% increase to our current budget, which is $2,021,000 and change. So just so we understand, it's a 5% increase right there. Of course, it's a one-time increase because then we'll be level funding, yada, yada, going forward. The second thing is the new position, and I don't know where the select board is on this, the municipal administrator with the wage band update that I sent out courtesy of Matt's hard work. It looks like a full-time municipal administrator is about 76K a year, somewhere around there. So if we do half-time, it's about 38K. So those 2 combined, so that's another 2% to the budget. So we're talking about just those 2, a 7% increase to the fiscal year 27 budget.
Yeah, and I don't know with what Liz does and what like Dorinda and all the other volunteers, if we do an administrator and we hire somebody good that's done it before and knows what they're doing, we're gonna get somebody for halftime. And is there, I mean,
Right.
personally, I think there's 32 hours of work. Of week
Absolutely.
of work, and
Yeah.
that, you know, there's so many ways that we could improve, and there's so many jobs that aren't being done that could be done in communication to the town, and it would be great to see somebody who's done it before. Right, like an expert to begin with. And then they'll probably need healthcare.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
more, I mean, it's everything, it's retirement, it's everything.
I don't see us getting somebody for a half part.
Well, I think unless you shared with another town,
Mhm.
you would definitely, nobody's gonna give up their job to do it, unless there's a retired person who, you know, wants to do it.
Mad
But
money.
once you retire.
Well, I don't know, you're talking about Mark, me.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say no.
But there is a
That's what it
difference,
relies on.
difference in blood pressure to volunteering to having an answer to, you know what I mean?
Good point.
But, you know,
I just think being realistic too, even if you brought some, even if you were able to find someone halftime, there's more work than halftime.
Halftime,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I think what we need to do, and I was doing a little bit of research, is
Uh-huh.
first of all, find out what the needs are. Let's find out what the needs are.
yeah, what the
in-
job would
in-
entail,
Right.
exactly.
So, you know, I'll probably take it upon myself to find some job listings and
Uh-huh.
put that in front of Liz, and we'll go through some itinerations of, you know, adding and subtracting.
And I think it's worthwhile looking at the other current administrators, the clerk, the assistant clerk, and see, are there things that they're regularly doing that.
They shouldn't be, yeah.
Right,
Right,
a combination of
Yeah.
new duties and offloading of current duties, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up with a full-time position. I wouldn't be surprised.
And it wouldn't be so bad, honestly, if the chairs evolved. That means maybe make a little list of things that could be helpful
Yeah.
to them.
Mhm.
Seen this on the website.
So if we did go ahead and hire somebody full-time, then that's a 4% increase.
So 9 overall, both those things.
we are not
Yeah.
gonna keep it under. Yeah, but are you talking, when you say 4% increase, are you including benefits? And
No, no,
So
because we
you're
have,
talking easily 5%.
yeah, because healthcare right now, at least in the current budget, the healthcare premiums comprise 6% of our budget. And it continues to go up. In a lot of towns, we're lucky because we just don't have many full-time employees. A lot of towns, it's much higher than that.
But I think all of us who have worked here and volunteered here believe that this town deserves better, and like, there's a lot more things to be done, that we just need somebody organizing and grants, you know, to keep them not just organized. I don't think grants have to be a big thing. Most of, you know, Keith Cubbin helps us. Some of it's just filling out the paperwork, but having somebody to fill out the paperwork.
That, to me, though, is the way you sell.
Right.
This position is gonna help Middlesex get grants, it potentially pays for itself.
And as well as the $100,000 that we might be putting aside for a just in case fund.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think my sense, and I've only been around the town for a few months now, but my sense is that there were a lot of things that people were doing who were part of government,
Yes.
who have now moved on, and things just aren't getting done.
So a very good point, Matt, because again, we've had, I would say, terrific long-term employees who have left their posts. I'm looking at one over here, and Sarah's the other. And they were doing just a lot of things that were outside of their job description, right?
Right.
And, you know, doing them for free, basically.
And Matt, and I want to thank Matt, for writing on Front Porch Forum about volunteers, and I need to follow up with that. And I think, well, no, because I kind of want to write a love letter to Liz and Sarah and all the other volunteers that step up, here, but also because the town needs to know, like, if we're gonna sell this, we need constant communication, and we need, you know, this is why the thing didn't pass in the vote, that 157, because they asked for 157 million, but they didn't tell us
What it's gonna do.
what's in it for me.
I sort of wanted to take it back to my perspective is that there's so much extra that people are doing that's outside their job description, and that we don't have a ton of traceability. Like when someone is doing that above and beyond, hopefully they're doing a great job. It's great that they're trying, but there's not a ton of, we don't know whether or not stuff is actually getting done the way it should.
Right.
You know, volunteers are great because they've helped us get to where we are, but I feel like with the way that folks are aging out of the roles that they are in right now and where the town is headed, those people aren't gonna be around forever. And we're gonna find ourselves in a really bad situation when we lose a couple of more people.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be an element of, this is just risk management. If we don't do something different, we're headed towards
Disaster.
increasing risk, and eventually it's gonna bite us.
The other side of it is, I think if you have a town, like you wanna call them administrator or assistant, whatever, you can hire from outside the town. And I think that's where you're running into, even with the elected positions, you're drawing from a very small group of people who have the availability or the knowledge to fill the position. And I'll be honest, in many cases, it's just a popularity vote. It's not really the right person that can necessarily fill the job. It's just, that's the name recognition or, you know, who backer.
Yeah,
Right,
the only
you're-
person running. I
Right,
think
exactly.
that's
And I think that's the biggest difference from this is you will be able to get a different candidate in here. So, but there is certain jobs that are, you know, state statute, the treasurer has to do, the clerk has to do, and, you know, they're their own entity, so you need to, you know, that's gonna be one thing when you start pulling some jobs that has to be considered.
Just rule of thumb, and where I work, when we're budgeting for positions, we take the pay and we add 25%. That's where benefits and payroll taxes and all that, that's usually an overestimate, but I think it's a good safe one, 25% top of pay. That's what it'll cost us.
You're talking more like 100K when you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I wanted to bring up the building fund for a minute, because I know we've got the building committee that's looking at things. Zara, is there any early look or thinking about, are we gonna keep this building or not?
I think
Is
some
there any
people,
lean?
there's maybe one or two people that are just so in love with this building or being in the downtown. I don't see how we have enough land here to then, if we're going to do one building, which in my reality seems like it would be cost effective. We don't have the place for dirt and this and that and trucks and da 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 here. We may have it where the garage is, but the problems there are the well is this far away from the septic.
Okay,
I've been told the septic is shot. They don't drink the drinking water. They bring in water from Shaw's. There's no ventilation, you know, it goes on and on, black
Mhm.
hole. So what we started with is making a list of the deficiencies for each building. And I know Dorinda's on a different team than I looked at the garage, and Dorinda's looking at her team is looking at the town hall.
okay,
So the town hall, and I'll speak to that, there is we've only talked about it once, we meet again tomorrow. There is a concept to use this town hall. So I don't want to give away all the beans because I don't know if it's
Actually-
supposed to be what we should be talking
A week
about.
from tomorrow we meet, right, Fit? It's
Oh,
the
no,
third.
but we have, our
Oh.
committee has a special meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
To discuss, we all went home with homework and, so. But yes, there is talk about staying here, and part of that is because of the issues we heard about whether we did move everything over there or not, or, so. I think the concept here might be a good one, but,
so this
it's
would
not
be.
gonna be $2.5 million, I can tell you that.
Good, you've already answered my question, so this would be a renovation, but a scaled down
What's the best case?
version.
Do you have a sense? Sorry to speak over.
Best case for what? What the
Cost.
cost would be? Well, we targeted somewhere around 1 million to 1.5.
Okay, so,
That was our target.
and so the reason I'm asking about the building fund and things is, I'm just trying to weigh. Let's just say we go ahead and renovate this current building, okay? Let's just say we go ahead and do it, and it's a 1.5 million estimate. Or, doesn't matter, or we decide we're gonna sell this building, and we're gonna build a new building, and it's gonna be 2 million, who knows? We're gonna bond that, right? We're gonna bond it, the firehouse bond is up in 2029.
Yeah, and we have 4 payments left,
Okay,
so,
so I think 2029 it's up, was it a 20-year?
let's see, yes, I think it Was it 20?
So, we'll go ahead and, we'd go ahead and bond whatever we do. We'll get a decent deal from the bond bank, right? That's where we'll go. It'll be a debt service item for 20 some odd years in the budget. And so what I'm wondering is, since we're gonna go bond, it's pretty clear, whatever we do. What do we do with the current building fund? And so what I'm thinking is, we're supposed to update the septic for this place next fiscal year. And I've already suggested we just use the current funding to do that. What I'm trying to do is eat down the $100,000 that we're gonna have to bump up for flood mitigation, trying to claw some of that back through, some places where we can sort of cut the budget. And one of them is the capital budget, because, we allocate certain funds every year, right? And the building fund, I think we do 10,000 a year, something like that. I think they're in the, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so it just for us to think about as we get closer to deliberation time, are there things in the capital budget that we could forego for a year to keep the budget increase down? So remember, the municipal part of our total tax bill is 25%.
Yeah.
So if we do a 10% increase, it's 2.5% on the, on our tax bill. The challenge is, remember, we got a reprieve this year because the Scott administration used general fund surpluses to sort of pay down school taxes. It's not gonna happen again, right? And if people read, we haven't made a lot of progress in consolidating districts, et cetera.
Well, it
So-
might not even save us money if we do.
Yeah, so we should expect in the school budgets, or on our school part of our taxes, which is 75%, double-digit increases for the foreseeable future. So, it's, we don't, we're not the bully in the
And we
neighborhood.
should, I think it's reasonable to expect there's gonna be a jump. I mean, it's not gonna be multiple digit sort of evenly. We're probably gonna
Right.
see, if we don't see a resolution this year, we're almost certainly due for a significant increase, right? I don't know. Yeah, if you have solutions, I'd love to hear them. I think that.
Yeah,
To your point, it sounds like sticking fingers in the dike, trying to draw down capital
Right.
stuff.
right, cause we're only a quarter of the total tax bill. There's only so much we can do. It's not like we can fund a level budget. Right?
And it's
We
not like
can't do that.
And it's not like we don't need the money.
Right,
That stuff is.
Because Dorinda's talking about 1.5 to keep this building, but then you haven't even talked about the fact that the well and the septic, something needs to be done for the guys there, the
Mhm.
mold remediation, the fact. that
Doesn't do anything.
Ventilation.
You haven't even touched the highway garage, which
Right.
we'll also have to go out for.
I mean, we're storing our excavator outside in the elements because we don't have enough space. for the garage.
And the garage is in worse condition than this place,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
And every time they have to fix cars, there's no pit, there's no lift, they get shocked, like they start the microwave and it flips a fuse, it's bad.
This is probably peanuts, but has anyone looked into the cost of location of a building over like a 20 or 30-year building lifespan? Cause I bet being on one side of town or another adds a heck of a lot in driving costs over the lifespan of us
Yeah.
being there. That's just, to me, that's an easy cost for us to ignore or to not think about.
Well, yeah, one of the things I did ask Dave, our chair, for FIT, was to, find out from Kevin Thompson what we do own in town. Like, maybe the solution isn't here or there, maybe it's.
Well, we don't own anything in the center of town. Everything we own is that way or that way.
And the problem with the center of town is there's no good infrastructure to
There's
get
no
there.
good,
It's-
right, so it's gotta be,
Recognize there's no good option.
it's gotta be on one side or the other. And there is people, as you alluded to, that are very passionate about this being
Here,
here, the center, the village, the town plan,
I will tell you
you
that,
know.
however, the crew is pretty passionate about it being there, since it's central point to all the roads. that
Okay,
need to
yeah.
go.
So that's kind of to me the calculus. we're
Right.
thinking about, because
So-
once you add in the time we pay people to drive and the vehicle costs to drive,
Yeah,
that's a
especially
big
heavy
expense
equipment,
over 20 years.
especially heavy equipment that
Exactly.
get great MPGs.
Yeah.
I think the town garage is in a good location, and that I believe the crew feels the same way, that.
So it sounds possible, so let's just think about this for a minute. It sounds possible that if we had to renovate the town garage or knock it down and rebuild it, we could couple that with whatever else we need to do, be it
Right.
renovate this building and have one big bond for it and move
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Okay,
During, this side, but I feel like it's relevant. Are we considering the fact that the town garage seems like it's in a good spot, and while people like Mike might like this building, it may make sense to just put all the facilities.
Oh, it's part of this group that's been
Okay.
formed, so what we're doing is we're doing an A and a B, and then we're gonna combine for a C. And, you know, once we know where,
The pros and cons of each.
of each side of it. And then-
The reason I ask is just that I have to imagine it's gonna be a lot less expensive to build everything in one place and try to.
That's my
Yeah,
suggestion.
it's,
Yeah.
But then we had one member of Fit go, well, we can't have 5 buildings, or let's start to have.
I
start
understand,
building-
but to bring it back to this budget
Yeah.
consideration, where our tax bills are going up.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Listen, man, I'm with you.
And that's what people are gonna be focused on.
I agree.
Do we have a map that shows like population density in town? I know we have what, 1,800 people? I would love to know, like, how many
Yeah.
of those people are on this side of the highway, or how many of those
Right.
people are on like Center Road, or, you know, cause. I just don't know where sort of you can sort of guess where the concentrations are, but I'd be really curious to have.
but do you think that would make an impact on the building?
I asked
Because-
that question.
Because this is the deal, no matter what we do to this building, your annual meetings will never be here. Okay, so they're always gonna be over at Run at the school. But we can't use it for the small votes that we have, because most of the time, school is in session during, so we set up here to do it.
Yeah,
So it really, and I think it's more or less getting out from somewhere, whether the population's there or here.
to me, it's about access,
Right.
if 70% of our population is within, 5 miles of the town garage, it'd be really silly for us to be putting lots of infrastructure over here, even though I know that's the historical center. It's just, I'm coming from someone on that side of town,
Right.
and it feels really weird to be driving all the way over here at times.
I think you're
And I
probably,
guess-
probably
likewise,
right,
yeah.
but I think that the cost, like, when we see a quote for doing these two separate locations versus a single, that's gonna, like, that'll
Absolutely.
drown out even that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I agree with that. One's the only way that's probably gonna be affordable.
But if you take the square footage of this building, which is 2,000 square feet, let's just say roughly. How much does it cost to build new over on the other side of town, another 2,000 square feet?
And maybe you're right, but I have to imagine renovating this building is gonna have a lot of surprise
Oh, you'd be
costs.
surprised with the concept that you come up with.
I'll leave, like I said, it's your subcommunity, but the
Yeah.
only point I'm trying to make is that. I think we need to challenge ourselves to say, hey, look, we might be able to save here, pull from here and pull from there. And I think that's an exercise we absolutely should do at some point, but I do think we need to have an honest conversation about. What's the order of magnitude increase that we expect, and set the expectation that if we try to prioritize everything, this is
Yeah.
what it's gonna cost, and we need to make sure that the town.
And I think that's what the building committee is doing. And I'm all for going the other side of town, but then when we got down and we started talking about something different, we said, so. It'll
This
come out
is a
soon.
5-minute drive for me, so I love it,
Yeah.
like, don't get me wrong, but it's just.
Yeah, no, it's,
Yeah, so is there
TBD.
an estimated time frame for when you folks will come up with something?
The timeframe we have right now is to get as much information gathered as we possibly can before town meeting, so that we can have a good discussion during town meeting. and
Okay,
let people know that this is going on, so we can get people's opinions. I mean, if 80% of the crowd there is going, ditch town
That's
hall,
right.
then, you know,
yeah,
enough.
yeah, so I imagine, sometime next year we'll have a special meeting
Yes,
to
correct. It's probably gonna take us.
right?
Oh, it's gonna take,
Yeah.
yeah, and if you're gonna have to get people to first. I mean, I think you're gonna have to, at least for the highway garage, you know. You're gonna have to go out with, you know, a lot of information on that. People already have concepts on this,
Mhm.
that will change, but,
Surveys, communication, and here again, if we had a town administrator,
Yep.
that person could be really helpful in terms of letting people know like what's going on and getting, you know, and getting
Yeah.
feedback from people and being able to. Follow that.
Does anyone know, I would assume like when we go out for this bond for, you know, the garage. We're not gonna wanna go out for a separate bond for town hall or for other large expenses, right? Like we want a single bond.
Yeah, it'll be an omnibus bill.
And,
How's that?
I mean, I think we should make sure the townspeople understand that.
Yes,
Because
that's why I asked the question to Dorinda, because I assume that's what we would do.
well, I just, but I think it's critical to
Yeah.
make that point, because otherwise people are gonna think, oh, well, we can do this one. And
Yeah.
then we'll go and figure out the other
Yeah.
one next, and it's.
Right.
That's
No,
not,
we have to decide together or.
Yeah.
yeah, because that's not something everyone would understand.
Right.
Very true.
And I will say that because we have been kind of repaid by FEMA and we should, by then, they certainly have wrapped up.
boy, are you optimistic?
I try. You know, barring any other emergencies, maybe people will be more open to opening their we were asking for 3.5 million to renovate this town hall when we were in $10 million worth of flood debt.
Right.
And that's all right. I just think it's important to stress that, hey, if we're planning to get a good rate on everything that we're taking out, we have to do it all at one go.
Yeah.
This can't be the kind of thing where we're.
Piecemealing.
Right, but our initial bond for the fire station was, 300, no, wait a minute, $1 million, just over $1 million, $1.1 million. And that took us all that time to pay off, and that's a $40,000 payment.
Yeah.
Plus interest every
Mhm.
year, so,
So
So
just
that-
as a basis of, and that was what, 4%, I can't remember.
let's see. No, it's changed, it
Oh.
was when it first started, it was 1.69.
Oh my gosh.
A different world.
Yes.
Isn't it? This year it's 4.74.
Okay, so how often does it change? Annually?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's been growing since the very first year, so.
okay, all right,
But we're still under 5, when it ends, we'll still be at 4.98.
okay.
But it's probably fair to assume that that's gonna be the floor on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, unless the Fed decides to do something about it. Right.
We're gonna have debt from the flood, and we're talking over $1 million, I believe, for that.
And do you know what the rate is on that? Is it comparable? Is it-
Well, right now, we're with the bond bank on that, but
Are we,
I mean, we never were in line to get 100%. You know, the first flood was 90 and 17.5. The second flood was 75, and then the state was gonna kick in 17.5, but I don't know if that's a sure thing anymore.
See, I thought it was 7.5. I didn't ever know that it was 17.5.
Okay, well then, whatever it is, you can see
What's
you
left?
have,
Yeah.
you're gonna have debt left
Yeah.
over, and so.
and you know what we're currently paying for a rate at the bond bank? Is it the 4 point something?
I don't.
I
I
honestly
don't
be
have
surprised
that
that sounds
yet.
low.
And we
Just
did
looking
just
on-
pay one of our
Yeah.
things off.
Well, we paid down Community Bank, I believe, and, but we're still on at the bond bank.
Okay. Well, good discussion. We have a lot to think about here as we come into budget, as we come into budget deliberations, right?
Yeah.
And going forward, because we have some, we have some big expenses on the horizon that we have to do some critical thinking about.
Yep, and there are some little expenses, like, I don't know if this goes through Cheryl's budget or not, but I'm being told right now, and I was told at this time last year, that they're saving on color copies, because they're already over budget, so they need to double that budget for color copies.
So why do we need color copies? When we bought that machine, and I'm gonna complain as the treasurer, when we bought that machine, it was said, you don't use color copies to just like fancy sheets
I
for the
don't, I
select
just,
board.
I just did one flow chart that a person had given to me in terms of how to, the flow chart of like how, to get the state to,
Right.
you know, the A and R stuff that I'm doing.
But there's far.
It was 4, 8.5 by 11.
Yellow and blue.
Yeah,
That doubles or triples the cost of the.
That you pay for a whole page because you
Right.
use just that one little bit. Pays for
then
the
they need
whole-
to be told that
They
now.
need to be told
upstairs.
to shut it down. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's.
Cause
But
I,
I'm not. in
I
there
do my
anymore.
copies at home on my own dime,
So
so.
do I.
But it's possible they just don't know if it's that, like, I would have known it cost that much more.
Oh, yeah, it's pricey.
So
It's
it's probably
really,
just like
really.
communicating.
It's like
Printer
2
settings.
cents versus 5
I
cents.
Right.
I don't even understand why it's an option.
Yeah, that
Why
would
can't
be
we-
nice.
can't every-
Right. The absurdity now is that,
Not my job,
the
But see, that's
absurdity
the
now
problem, it's nobody's job, you know?
no, but.
is that,
Right.
is that the ink cartridges over their life cost more than your printer. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Particularly the color one.
It's the most expensive.
And that's why you pay for the overages on it, because part of it is, you know, it's, this toner comes with the support contract. I don't think they knew that.
No, they probably don't know any of that.
Yeah, so is it like a
They
printer?
must not.
piece?
If
It's like you
printing
get a
up
piece of
for
printer
copy,
and you
maybe
pay for a
color
support
copies,
contract and it comes
Right.
with a certain number of pages per month or
Right,
something.
that's what it is. It's you get so much
Those are so
based on how long the.
It's real easy when your printer breaks, but then you pay an arm and a leg for
Yeah, we know
Is
that.
there a way to like configure the printer so that we kind of can shut it off?
Well, yes, but
But is there really a
it. With the
need
support
for?
contract, you probably for free can get the support people to come and you tell them, hey, I want this program, so I need to enter a code to make it color. And
Maybe that's-
that may be.
Well, you know, and maybe we put a sign up, only print in color if you
Well,
need to.
I think this is a role for the administrator.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yes.
This is not the kind of thing that we should try to solve.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's a good point.
Yeah,
For an
it's just-
administrator.
But it's true, like, it
Yeah, yeah,
needs
well,
to
no,
start
and I'm sure there's a
somewhere, you
thousand
know,
things
like-
like this that we.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of situations like that where it's who
But-
does it and then nobody does it.
Right.
But the thing is not to double your budget. The thing is to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's where I-
yes. Yeah,
Well,
look at
see,
the
and I,
root cause.
because I didn't know how, I've never, you know, done something where I was in charge of what the printer, how it worked and what
The
it
colors.
cost.
Yeah.
I just make
Alright.
copies.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Feedback on the revised wage bands.
Great work.
Pretty neat
Yeah,
stuff,
great work. you
Yeah.
do.
done by
Great work.
Matt and AI.
Well, and you proofread it. so-
Well, yeah, but still, the brunt of the work was done by Matt and software, and it's neat stuff, definitely.
The one thing I did want to say was the totals, like for road crew and stuff, I think that included their overtime, right? Because the hourly didn't add up to the total.
Yeah, so they were reported separately and
Okay.
I took the annual. one
Just
that was
wanted to
available.
verify that, okay.
One thing I was wondering about was like, some of them were 50% under, 50% over the average, and others
Yes.
were 40, and just curious where those percentage came with, because it felt to me like it was a really wide range.
Yeah, so and Mark had similar feedback.
Yeah.
There's various ways of doing pay scales and pay ranges. I went with the wider. There are a couple of reasons I did that. Typically, I think wage bands, you end up 25% to 75%. No one's ever on the lower than 25th percentile or higher, very rarely higher than 75th percentile. It's better to have more discretion than less discretion, I think. Like if we find a candidate that we want to hire, I think it's more reasonable to give them. I think looking at the median is really the best way to do it. And then saying, hey, like, you know, the guidance should be, don't fall below the 25th unless you have a really good reason for some super junior candidate. Don't go above. The 50, the wider range for more management or a higher level is a common practice. You know, executive white collar will tend to have a wider pay range than just that sort of more common skill sets.
Yeah, the thing I always struggle with all those pay ranges is you don't know what positions go into it. Like, you know, we've got X number of town administrators. You don't know if those are people who are on average, have worked 10 years and have lots of experience, and that would bring your overall, you know, average or median way up. But you just don't know that.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that I think So the towns we pulled from were similar for the targeted ones, but then when we looked at the state percentiles as well, which is just everything, we were never wildly off.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
percentiles.
And this was more about in the future hiring.
Yeah. That was really good. I think it's really helpful to have
Yeah,
that data
both
for
of you,
comparing
thank you.
the work.
And I think there were a couple of questions from folks on like what data they use. There was another more detailed document I could share just for supporting it.
I had a few questions. So yeah, the data set, what I was curious on is the towns that were used. I know you had listed the 18 towns. But then I wasn't sure if you used any 2024 data.
It was all 2025.
Cause I didn't see, so I noticed you said, for example, like Proctor, I didn't see anything in 2025.
When you
for-
say Proctor,
So as far as you have the 18 towns with populations between 1,500 and 2,000.
Mhm.
So one of those 18 towns is Proctor, but I didn't see in the 2025 data set where Proctor was listed.
and did you look in the part-time as well?
Yeah, I looked in, well, I mainly looked in the population and I didn't spend a ton of time on it. I figured it would be easier when I was reviewing it to kind of know what towns each reference data point was referring to, like, cause highway lists 12 towns, but then the road crew lists 15 towns. So, and maybe that's just a matter of, you know, one of the towns listed their road crew, but not their foreman. Like, I wasn't
That-
quite
and that
sure.
definitely did happen. And actually, I think Lauren, I think, had a 4-person, but you would see both the foreman and the, like the road crew with the identical salaries. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
okay, clearly this is just a double entry of 4. So what I can share, and we can figure out how to share it out, is I have a format where all of the actual items that went into generating each of those percentiles, it ended up being like 50 pages, so we didn't send that out and share it with everyone.
It's better
I-
than 450.
I can send that to you, you know, unless you wanna try to.
I noticed, cause there were some other towns that fell within the 1,500 to 2,000. For example, South Hero Town, where they had like a full-time clerk and they had like full-time road crew, but they weren't included.
I mainly focused on central Vermont.
Okay.
And so like there was some geographical range where I tried to pull just towns with our
Gotcha.
populations.
Okay, cause I didn't wanna spend too much time on it, cause I'm sure I'm missing things, but, okay, there's a couple of other questions, sorry, I'll be quick. So I noticed on the data, it said NA for treasurer, I wasn't sure why, is that?
What piece are you looking at?
Yeah, so the rate, the recommended wage bands, I don't know if we're kind of lumping treasurer with town clerk, and that's why the current salary is NA.
Let me pull up the actual document to make sure I know what you're looking at specifically.
Oh, it was just, it was the wage band recommendations for Middlesex, Vermont.
Just page 2.
Yeah, just on the second page.
Yeah, so Middlesex didn't report the municipal treasurers in the VLCT data.
Okay,
I think they're, like the annual salary
Like-
just isn't reported there, and so
oh, for
this data is
Middlesex, you
just
think?
from the VLCT data set.
Gotcha, okay, that makes sense. And then. Sorry, I did a bunch of notes. So with the 50%, if we wanna keep it that large range, I think we wanna put a note in here that the town isn't gonna go below minimum wage. So like
Of
if you
course.
look, yeah, so you know, when you look at these ranges and you see like $12, $13.
That's good feedback.
You know, I think we wanna like put that in, you know, that we wouldn't go below minimum wage. And then are we gonna do, it sounds like we're gonna do a separate analysis for part-time positions. Is that true?
I don't think I was planning to generate it, the issue being that there's just not good sample size for those. And so I think part-time also is more difficult, like, are we talking 8 hours or 5 hours? We
Right.
could do an hourly, but I just don't think there's data there, I think. Unless the folks have thoughts on how we would put together.
Yeah, I think looking at the 2024 data and the 2025 data of the LCT, so a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, it's voluntary.
Yeah,
They provide
not
the
every
data,
town has
so if the data isn't valid, you just take it and use it. And the second thing is for, I think a lot of the part-time positions, they just give the hourly wage. So that's really what we have to go on.
And so Cause I noticed Lister was included and that's a part-time position.
Yep.
We included
So-
Lister because there's a ton of data. Go ahead.
So it's interesting, in the 2024 data, there was no Lister data. 2025 data, there is, for the first time,
And it's huge.
which
coverage.
surprised me, it's a lot,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
So the reason we included Lister was, one, we knew the town was very interested in that, and there's a ton of part-time data for this. There sort of seems to be a standard way in which a Lister is paid part-time.
okay. So we might not do part-time, just Lister part-time,
Correct.
okay. And,
Well, and to be clear, I think if there was a need to add that, I could go in and do it. It's just that the analysis would be different from the analysis that was done here because we're not
Right.
data. Yeah.
and then this is kind of like a side question, and I don't know that it's not really pertaining to this. But our road crew, are they, like our entire road crew, are they always on call?
Yes.
So all road crew members?
I wouldn't say all of them. I think Eric determines who is on call and unfortunately, I think Eric usually takes the brunt of, yeah.
Just doing the on-call,
Yeah.
because I think that would be beneficial. You know, one of the things that I've heard and looked at, and one of my concerns, is that we're kind of paying people enough, you know, and more specifically, the road crew. I think that, you know, I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but it looks like we reported on the VLCT data. You know, one of them is like 24.75 an hour, and that just seems really low. And I think that there should be some attention around that. I don't know that we have much say, but that was just something, just me personally, that I wasn't a fan of. And I think that if, you know, if people are on call, like that's a lot to expect from someone getting paid so little. But I mean, that's just kind of my personal thought, because when I think of, you know, when I look at the range, I just kind of feel like we're on the lower end, and I think that, you know, we're comparing against population, and I think there's a lot of different ways we can look at this data. So we can compare, you know, at least like when we're thinking of the road crew, we can compare for population, that's one way. But we could also compare, like if we have a lot of roads, like we could compare for mileage, you know, against other towns. Like I think there's different ways to look at it. But I just think, you know, since I started looking at this information, the stuff that I've heard, you know, I feel like we've had someone on the road crew for a very long time, you know, so that should come into play too. And, you know, and maybe it's a matter of like a per diem, like if somebody gets called and it's outside of like their normal working shift, maybe we pay them a per diem or something like.
So with the road crew, they do get time and a half if they go over time.
If they go
If
over.
they go
the-
over.
Because they're not elected. Elected officials like Cheryl, you know, if she does over her 32 hours, she's still at her normal weight. There's no time and a half legally for her because she's an elected official. But because we
I
employ the
didn't know that.
guys, that's a new thing that I just learned too.
Yeah.
They do get their time and a half and they do kind of count on that.
If they go over.
Yes,
But I mean,
but I agreed with
if
you.
they're like Christmas Eve
Oh,
or
Thanksgiving,
evening
all
or
the, you know,
weekend,
yeah,
40 hours.
you know.
yeah.
So for holidays though, they do get double time if they go out on Christmas
On
or
Christmas or
something, that they
something.
get paid for the holiday, plus they get paid for the day, so that would
So it's a
be.
paid
and
day
they-
off plus work time.
Right, plus work
Right.
time,
Yeah.
plus if it happens to be over 40 hours, when that happened, they would
Right.
get the other half on top of that, so.
And like that long-term member you're talking about, he is in the 30s. Because he's been here for so long, he got the 4% increase, so he's making.
Right.
But, and I have looked at those wage ranges.
Yeah, when I look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, so like Waitsfield, I know, they pay almost $4 or $5 more to start than us. But Essex Junction pays $23 to start,
Yeah, so,
but they have a huge,
right, so just a comment on that, it really, unfortunately, it depends on how well off the towns are. It really does.
Right,
It's
their
what they
budget.
offer. If you go to Mad River Valley, right, if you go to Waitsfield, Warren, they're gonna pay more. Because they've got the skiers and they've got the, you know, they've got the revenue. And so, and they're out there, right, they have to keep the roads open because they've got all the skiers coming to
Yeah.
their mountains. So, you know, it's part of you have to look at what the industry is in the town, like Essex, used to be IBM, now there's Global Foundries, but there's not much there. Amazon didn't get their way, so.
I heard they're going to, is it Milton or is it?
Interesting.
I'm not
Everybody's
sure, but
yeah, they-
Still,
They don't give up easily, but anyway, it does depend somewhat on the town and what they have, you know, in terms of revenues in the tax
Right.
base to offer town.
And also
employees.
benefits come into play as well.
I was just gonna bring that up, so yeah, so I agree with you, we should be paying more, but one thing that we are looking at in the select board is making the benefits better for people. So it doesn't rob them of these.
Cause we don't wanna be in a boat where we're losing people, you know,
Right.
we wanna be competitive.
Right, this
you
was,
know, road-
this was the
road
whole
very
idea with
important.
this, right? This is the whole
Yeah.
objective with this was, when you brought up the question, why don't we have wage ranges? Well, you know,
Yeah,
it
we
makes sense to get them so that we can compensate people fairly and continue to update them with the rate of inflation, et cetera. Right,
Has the town ever considered like a stipend for people who get health insurance elsewhere?
Mm.
Because that can be an incentive for people to actually take their own partner's insurance. It could save the
And
town
it can
money.
save them, yeah.
And it's an equitable thing, you know, I'm sure the town spends a lot of money on health insurance for some people, and other people get squat because they don't need it.
We did pay for, we don't have anybody doing it currently, but
Okay.
at one time, we were paying the person so much a month for,
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
But I think it's a great thing to add into any job opportunities that we have in the future. That,
And just responding a little bit to some of the wage man things, in the approach to this, I think it's important to look at, there's a wide band. One of the benefits of having a wide band is that we give, some discretion to the folks who are actually hiring and working with these people to set wages appropriately. I think it is important that we recognize where we fall against the state and against towns of similar sizes, and those towns include some wealthy, some not so wealthy.
Right.
If the town understands where we fall on those 2 percentiles from a budget perspective, I think we've done what we need to. I think the select board and everyone else can recognize, make sure we're doing what we should doing. And consider the fact that we've only got 6 full-time employees, and if you lose 20%, almost 20% of town capacity because someone goes out elsewhere or they're sick,
It's a huge hit.
It really is.
Yep.
You know,
Good
and then
point.
thinking of additional duties that people have, like all that stuff, like. I like the wide range, I wanted to be cautious because some of these wide ranges go pretty low too, we're like the below minimum wage and stuff.
yeah, Matt and I talked about that in email, and, you know, the sort of consensus we came to was the folks who are doing the hiring can sort of decide on
Right,
how they want to adjust that range.
Yeah, I think having a wide range makes a lot of sense as long as the people who are setting the wages know that you
yeah,
really don't wanna be in the high or low ends of the
But
range.
this is only suggested, is it not? I mean, if you really had the right candidate sitting in front of you and they wanted $2 more an hour or whatever,
Right.
I mean, hopefully
Yeah.
this is just a suggestion.
Yep,
Because
exactly.
that, you don't wanna lose a good candidate because your paperwork says,
exactly, yeah.
this is where we're gonna get. you.
Right.
and it's
Right.
good to say, because the last crew member that we hired, it was me and Eric sitting there.
Right.
Really, you know, I
Right.
mean,
Mhm.
I was there because I'm the chair of the road committee,
Right.
and by virtue of that, only, not that I know.
Right, no, but I think, you know, that's,
Yeah, so the key term here is with the wage bands is flexibility,
Yeah,
right? That's what we're gonna give folks.
and I think like
It's a
see where we're
tool,
at. you
right?
know,
It's a tool. And to me, a former statistics guy, I tend to look at the median and say, how far away are our folks from the median,
Right,
right? And so that's something to keep in mind as well.
And I just wanna say that Sam is also making a good point, because in the past, the road crew was only to do, maintenance. Now they're helping to do repair. So
Yep.
they have stepped up in that.
It's changed.
well, I mean, if we're out cutting a tree out of a road too on a
Yep,
weekend,
yep.
like that's, you know,
Yeah.
that seems above and beyond. That's
All
all the
right.
questions.
All right, we've got about 9 minutes left, so let's just, review budget discussions at select board meetings. So we have one tonight, recreation cemetery, and there's one more, I can't remember,
Oh,
they're
there's,
small departments.
Yeah, they're all small.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright.
So fire department and
Fire department.
and highway are next, December 2nd, 16th is town.
November
Is
18th.
town and general government. So tonight is recreation,
Animal control.
animal
and-
control and cemetery, yeah. So bandstand now, remember, is under recreation per
It was
Mitch's.
last year too.
Okay, per Mitch's suggestion, he's got it in his budget. So that's the schedule. As you can see, we've got 3 meetings in January for sort of deliberation, so we can come to a budget. Let's see, next agenda item is just any update on when we'll have a new town website? I know, Matt, are you working with someone on that?
I haven't been closely involved, I was
Okay.
involved in the selection, but I
Okay.
have been on the recent emails.
Okay.
So I think the vendors come back with like a temporary site, it sounds like we on our side haven't figured out who's actually gonna fill in, like the content. The vendor, I think, was
Yeah.
reporting some of it, but there's content notions. So I think, Lori and his volunteers been helping get people pulled in.
Okay.
Recently, there's been 3 or 4 people who volunteered, so, hopefully it doesn't take a month, but maybe it takes more than that.
So the vendors come back with an estimate, I think?
It's already, that's already happened.
Okay.
The vendor has already stood up like the initial like
Oh,
version.
okay,
And so Cheryl and Brenda have seen that, but they don't have the time to manage getting the website set up. So
Okay,
that's the volunteers.
great.
Yeah.
okay. We have another business before we talk about our next meeting?
Means the town website. I mean, this probably falls under what we talked about,
I
right?
can't talk about that.
I'd say that it's Cheryl. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay,
And other business?
yeah.
Any other business before we close out?
No.
So our next meeting will be Thursday, December 16th. 4 p.m., that's the third Thursday. So let's see, it's 4. 3. Okay, we are adjourned.